I think it's crazy how I've got so many friends that will come and tell me, Jillian, your work is so easy. All you have to do is take out a piece of paper, show up with a couple of paints, put your brush to paper, and voila, you get paintings. And I hesitate at that, and it also made me go, I used to think that I had a painting problem. I felt like, Jillian, now that you are at a certain level and you have been painting for, 5 years, you're now teaching, you are also doing commission paintings for different people. You should be at the level or space that you are able to paint almost any flower. And there are times where I felt like I am just not able to paint certain subjects, even flowers, and then feel this sense of guilt calling myself a floral artist. Well, in today's episode, I just want to talk to you about the lies that I have been telling myself. And this is where I realized that what I had was not a painting problem, it was a thought problem. There are so many things that I have been telling myself that sounds so true because sometimes the more you tell yourself certain things, the more you start to believe it. And this is where I wanted to share the story of when I took this long break that I had in between my painting journey. You see, I started my painting journey sometime in 2016. And after I had my first kid, I took a long break. During that long break, I made up the excuse that it was because of motherhood. But the real reason why I took that break was because imposter syndrome won. Well, 3 years later, I came back to it, sat down with my imposter syndrome, had a conversation, and realized and decided to break down all the different lies that I had been telling myself about painting and why I took that break. Now I'm going to be sharing with you all of those different lies, so if you are ready, grab your comfy chair, take a seat together with me as we walk through each of these lies. I can't be alone when I say this lie. It has to be good. I think that so many of us have this impression that when we sit down, whatever we paint has to be productive. It's almost like something that we were taught from school, where the time spent has to be productive. It needs to have an outcome. It needs to be good, a definition, a journey, or something that is final. Because of that, whenever I turned up and it felt like it was not good, it really weighed so heavily on my shoulders, making me feel like I was not good enough, I was inadequate, and coupled with the number of experience or number of paintings you have done, then it makes the feeling even worse because suddenly there is so much pressure on you where you are starting to think that it is about you and not really about the artwork that you are creating. Now let's flip this script a little bit. What does it mean by it has to be good? What if I told you that instead of it being good, aiming for it being real is more important? And this is how I define real. Real artwork is where you are expressing with your body, with your hands, and with the tools that you have. It's about expressing the feeling, the mood, and emotion that you are currently facing and feeling at that moment. Doesn't always have to be happy flowers, happy colors. There might be moments where you feel like you want to depict some moody colors or even shapes that you don't typically see in your own paintings. Now, being real is so much more important because then we start to see artwork as an authentic expression of ourselves rather than that it is an outcome or a destination. Now let's talk about lie number 2. I'll paint when I feel inspired. How many of us feel that way? And I've been reading art books to my kids lately, and one of the things that always pop up is I realized that back then, where artists had so much lesser things, fewer art stores, no Instagram, no social media, there is really so much lesser in their environment for them to feel inspired. But despite so, they painted their heart out. They were able to just sit and be patient with painting the same subject over and over again. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Monet, and all he wanted to do was learn how to capture light and shadow and shape. Now how about us? Us always feeling this sense of dissatisfaction that we have to feel inspired before we are ready. How much does our cup have to be filled before we actually think it's ready? Waiting for that right moment almost feels like we don't even know when the time is gonna come. So here is how I want to flip things for you. Start observing the simple and the most mundane things in your day-to-day life and find magic in them instead. Sometimes something as easy as just sketching the outline of a pen, or even, looking for what is around you and thinking of what you can doodle instead. There are so many different opportunities that you can find, and the best person to do that is truly you. The opportunities that you allow your mind to wander into, and the magic that you actually see in the small things. Now, I want to tell you that, I know that you're watching this on social media, which is YouTube. And the irony is that, I'm telling you that picking up your phone, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through YouTube is not going to cut it. In fact, it is not going to give you the inspiration that you might look for. What happens is that it really clouds and dilutes your voice instead. And it's a voice that is so important, because back to point 1 where I talked about authenticity, you really want to preserve your voice as much as you can. And the best way to do that is through expression. This means that we don't really have time to wait for inspiration. In fact, we have to just sit down and get painting. Let's talk about lie number 3. I should be past this by now. Now, I've been really guilty of that the last couple of months. Sometimes I feel like I should already be able to do this. I get impatient with myself, and a part of me also sometimes feel that there are some things that feel too basic and I should be painting more complicated pieces of art. But this is the thing. The interesting thing is that the art pieces that I've created that are the simplest, the ones that have the least amount of colors, or I use just one type of brush, or I only focus on one subject and one reference, always gave me the best result compared to a fantastic bouquet that I saw at the supermarket that I want to replicate. So here is where I want to reframe this and see the opportunity in how, instead of seeing that you should be past this or that is too basic, to actually start seeing things as a way to deepen it, finding the roots underneath instead, and really be appreciating the strong foundation that you already have and how you can hone in on those strengths instead. Oh, friends, we are now at lie number 4. I am not ready to paint that yet. Well, how do we really know what readiness feels like if we have not tried something? It's almost like I'm not ready to try spicy food. What are we really afraid of? I think we need to ask that question and dig deeper. Because when we're talking about not being ready about painting a specific subject, are we disqualifying ourselves based on skill? Or are we really afraid of not being productive? Or maybe we are just feeling like we are inadequate because we don't have the skills. But what skills do we need really? Are we even building skills? So if you are asking all of your questions like these, then I guess this really gives you an opportunity to start thinking about readiness. What does it mean for you to be ready for something? Because we all know, based on our life experiences, that readiness really comes from the doing and not from the waiting. It is the most beautiful lie in every artist's mind, but in my own opinion, I feel like this lie is fear in disguise. Because in the end, readiness only comes after you have taken that step. It's not about finishing, it's really about just starting. Think about how you would encourage a 2 or 3-year-old to take their first steps or to try something new. And if you would encourage them in a way that is supportive, scaffolded, and tells them what they need to do, perhaps this would actually remove some of the fear and the anxiety. And this is exactly why I had created the Artist Passage, which honestly has been the best thing for the artists within Brush Movement Collective, because in the first part of creating this community, I had noticed that artists would come in with different levels of experience, and this is where providing to them just one tutorial was not sufficient, because this meant that artists that were in stage 1 and 2 might have problems trying to complete or to even attempt some of these classes in comparison to those in stage 3 and 4, because they actually feel competent, and then as a result, providing a class that was too easy was also going to make the stage 3 and 4 artists to feel like they were not being challenged. So here is where I decided to put it all together, create a 5-stage plan to help artists to identify where they are, what skill they are at, to help them to feel ready. Now, the readiness really comes with scaffolding. It also helps with alleviating that anxiety. And the whole point, as I said, is to help my artists feel supported. So if you're not sure what stage you are in and you are wondering if you are ready, then I would love to invite you into our free Artist Hub to take the quiz, understand where you are in your artist journey, get resources clearly defined for you at your stage, so that you can begin to paint more freely. Now, are you ready? Let's look at lie number 5. And this one here is a fun one. The lie goes, it is not worth painting if I am not progressing. You see, artists like Monet that I had mentioned, he would sit down and paint the lights and lily pads over and over again for many paintings. I feel like one of the things that I lack in my own practice is repetition. The ability to actually sit down and paint a subject over and over again more often than I am used to. I think this is also in part my attention span that is waning. I wish that I had definitely more ability to sit down and maybe paint just the sunflowers for a month, maybe, if I had that attention span. And really, again, that's another lie, it's another excuse, and there are so many different things that we are telling ourselves. And these thought problems just keep stacking and accumulating on each other. It's almost like a dance that it's doing. But that said, I think that when it comes to repetition, there is also this fear of boredom. What if I'm so bored out of my mind that I end up losing interest? And I feel like all of these different things that we are telling ourselves are important signs in our journey. In fact, understanding what makes us feel bored and what lights us up, whether we feel challenged, whether we feel motivated, all of these different feelings are really underlying feelings related to learning. So if we start taking all of these emotions and start thinking about the way it impacts how we feel about our art, it could really start transforming how we practice, instead of feeling like we're not challenged, this is too easy, or I'm feeling bored, and start thinking about how from boredom we can start taking one step to challenge ourselves more. Or this is too hard, how can we break it down and simplify it so that we make it a little easier the next time we paint? And if we can start scaffolding our learning in a way that is doable, I think these excuses would then kind of disappear, don't you think? So now that I have sat down with you and, basically went through with you the different lies that I tell myself with regard to painting, I am now curious to know about the lies that you tell yourself about painting. Be it, I don't have time, I don't have space. Some of these are really fun ones. I want this community to know that they are not alone. So feel free to write down some of the lies that you have been telling about yourself, about your creation process, and I can't wait to see you again in the next episode or inside the Artist Passage Hub.